All right, how we doing, everybody? Matt Modi here with OddsJam. Let's bet some player props for Sunday night football tonight. So we got the Dolphins versus the Chargers, which had the potential to be a really good game. The Dolphins held up their end of the bargain. The Chargers, not so much. They're now 6-6 on a two-game losing streak, having a very difficult stretch to make the playoffs now because of their two-game losing streak. But we do have Tua versus Herbert, I believe, for the first time in their career. At least for the first time, this game has some importance. So, going to be a good game. Let's bet some player props for this game. Of course, using OddsJam to log on and find these profitable player props. And the first play that we're going to lock in here that I really like is this Jalen Waddle over 62.5 receiving yards. So the play and the bet is at -110 at BetMGM. OddsJam calculates the no-vig line to be just about -115, -115.5. So 5.5 to 6 cents higher than the BetMGM line. All in all, giving us an EV percent of 2.35%. So this can be viewed as your profit margin as well. So a couple things to note here about this play. Number one, the importance of these no-vig odds. They're pulled from the sharpest sports books in the world. So that's why we use these no-vig odds as kind of the way to set the market, saying, hey, if this is the true line, this is what it should truly be priced at. If we can get more favorable odds on another book, that's going to be a profitable betting opportunity, which is exactly what we have here, right? -110 at BetMGM. More favorable odds, more favorable towards the sports bettor, which means higher payout than the -115. That's a good play. And then what you want to do is you want to look where other sports books price this market. So we see the -110 at BetMGM. And then we see Pinnacle, -139. DraftKings, -130. Caesars, -142. All three of them, the Betfred one is the only one that's closer to the BetMGM line. But all three of them, including Pinnacle, which is the sharpest sportsbook in the world. So in terms of these no-vig odds, Pinnacle is given the heaviest weight in terms of influencing or deciding, not necessarily influencing, but deciding what the no-vig odds should be priced at. And then DraftKings, surprisingly, does a pretty good job with player props as well. So DraftKings is another book specifically used for player props. But for a play like or I should say for a prop like receiving yards that has numbers that are pretty high, not every single book is going to say, hey, his over-under should be at 62.5. So if you view this event page in a new tab, it pulls up where other sports books price his receiving yardage prop at. So if we go here, and this is just giving us kind of the main lines for where every sports book prices this prop, which in this case we're looking at player receiving yards. So we want to go to Jalen Waddle. So we see at -110 is where, or excuse me, is 62.5 is where the books that we were looking at price it. But then we see BetOnline, which is this book right here, this column. BetOnline prices it all the way at 69.5. That is 7 yards higher than what we got it at. And look, they favor it going over, which is just insane. So not only does BetOnline think, hey, Jalen Waddle should be priced like at 69.5, 7 yards higher than what we got it at, but they also think that the over is the more likely scenario. So they have the over priced at -118, the under priced at -110, favoring this going over, which is just insane, the value of this play. So BetOnline, the book that I showed, which is again in this column right here, is the third sharp sports book that we use to set lines specifically for player props. So the fact that both DraftKings and Pinnacle, which is this line here, heavily favor it going over at 62.5, and then BetOnline has it favored at a pretty significantly higher number and favors it going over that number. Just insane. So this Jalen Waddle one is definitely my favorite player prop of this slate, of this video. I know I probably should have saved that one for last, but it's such a good play. So I'd recommend putting a full unit on this one unit on this Jalen Waddle one. And I'm actually going to avoid this 201. I don't think that this one's as good as the other two, so I'm going to avoid this one. But the next one that we're going to go ahead and lock in here is Austin Eckler over 42.5 receiving yards. The play, the book, the odds, -101 at Caesars. No-vig line pricing this at about -104. So again, the gap between those two numbers giving you your positive expected value. Profit margin on this one, about 1.57%. And And so let's look at the other sports books. Pinnacle, minus 124. Bet Rivers, minus 114. But they basically have it 50-50 each way, right? We see minus 114 on the over and the under. Basically them saying, hey, we don't know what side of this is more likely, so we're going to have it priced evenly each way. Betfred at minus 120. BetMGM also at minus 120. But 3 of the 4 pretty decently favor him going over. Bet Rivers has it 50-50, but Caesars is the only one that heavily favors him going under. The only one that favors him going under at all, this receiving yardage prop, this Austin Eckler one. So let's view this one in a new tab. Let's see where other sportsbooks price his receiving yards at. You know what? I guess I could have stayed on the Jalen Waddle one, but that's okay. So we are looking for Austin Eckler. And so we got him at 42.5. So it looks like some other books price it at 40.5, like PointsBet, FanDuel, and BetOnline. BetOnline does favor him going over the 40.5, which is a good sign, even though it's priced a little bit lower. And then we see some daily fantasy companies like Underdog have it at 42.5, so 2 yards higher. So this is still a good play. It's not as good as the Jalen Waddle one. As you can see, the other books don't price it as much in our favor. So this one, I would only recommend putting half a unit on as opposed to the Jalen Waddle one, which was the best value that you'll find on a player prop. Full unit, half unit on this Austin Eckler one, still a good play. So lastly, the last play for this slate, Tua going under 35.5 passing attempts, which I know right off the bat people are going to be scared off of because of how often the Dolphins pass, but against the Chargers, you don't need to. You can just run. And they have Raheem Mostert. They have Jeff Wilson, a pretty creative running game. So probably going to lean heavily into the run game. That's, I'm assuming, what the odds are suggesting here. No vig line, just below minus 116, so we can call it minus 116. Bet Rivers / Barstool, Unibet, and TwinSpires at minus 114. And look across the board. Pinnacle has this the most heavily favored at minus 152. DraftKings has it at minus 130. And then the rest of the books, minus 130 at Betfred, minus 135 at Caesars, minus 125 at PointsBet. Pretty good pricing here on this one as my third and final player prop to lock in for Sunday Night Football, and that's it. So if you guys are tailing, comment and let me know. But again, that's it. I appreciate everybody watching, and have a good one.